Okay, this is going to be a video with Fidelity Investments concerning myself, Stephen A. Summers, my mother, Catherine V. O'Leary, and events that transpired with them starting around April the 28th. Original paperwork was done around April the 26th with Mr. Alec Garlock there with Fidelity. There was a mistake made in setting up the third account, a joint account, a precious metals account. There was a mistake made with the debit cards for my mother and myself, even though we're both on the account. The account was originally opened the first week of April. Russ Anner was there both April the 28th or so and the beginning of April. He was there for the signing and the opening because he has been a dear help to my mother, and he was going to be the authorized agent on her behalf because I don't live full-time in the Chicago area, and my work has me on the road involved with 18-wheelers, like where I'm supposed to be this morning. This is the morning of June the 30th of 2022, and it's a very sad set of outcomes that have happened. This has been going on for 8 days now. Acutely, it's been going on for 45 days, ridiculously. It's affected my time with Theoline Dixon, Sherman Dixon, Denise Dixon in Texas. It's affected everything else, and is threatening to affect my mother's assets she owns and has stored with NTS Fleet Group, because she's not been able to pay any bills. And there's over $30,000 of both paper stock and precious metal now jammed up because of these events. And I'm just going to talk for a minute before I place the call. You know, right now we don't have a product in America. We need to get one. Whereas people have paid taxes, they've bought an investment product. They've bought the investment product with income they already paid tax on. So we have a problem here happening in America with the markets declining, the value declining of these assets. I warned the Fidelity staff, Stacy Decker and Alec Garlock, July of last year, that if this ever began to happen, I'd convert my mother's stuff into precious metal. My mother, without going over her health, everything that happened, was diagnosed with COVID in May of 21. She was already doing very not well in her mind to begin with. It affected her mind worse. She ended up having to be hospitalized in the same hospital my daughter's great-grandmother passed away at the year before from COVID. The staff were not able to deal with my mother's mental illness and my mother's state of confusion on May 24th, and May 21st of 21, and they allowed my mother to basically escape their care and fall and break her hip in the hospital. And then they simply covered it up, and they left her to die. And they left her with no IV, no fluids, no nothing for 3 days. And I have all of that on tape because I was there, and I brought in my own doctor, Dr. Dina Mohammed. I brought in my own doctor because her doctors and the doctors at Christ Hospital for 5 days supposedly couldn't find the broken hip. And my mother could have died in the meantime. And this resulted in her having to have extensive surgery beginning of June of 2021. And by the middle of June of 21, to be placed in a rehab care facility to which she lived at through January of 2022. I was already dealing de facto running all my mother's affairs by March of 21 anyway, and officially began running all of her affairs by June 29th of 2021. So with Illinois Durable Power of Attorney. So, and it was witnessed, it was videotaped, because her mind at that point was going in and out. There were good days and bad days. So back to this. So the Wizards of Wall Street need to come up with a product with our dear friends, the Bidens, or whomever is running the boat, for today's marketplace, today's financial world, where, when an investor has already purchased assets, and they've purchased the assets with taxed monies that they paid taxes on already, and the assets begin to lose value, there needs to be an option to convert those paper stocks into precious metal without having to pay the retax, again, of selling the asset and then buying the precious metal. However, at this point, that doesn't exist. So in April of 22, I set up a joint account with Fidelity, with my mother and I having full, equal everything, and began to convert and place precious metal in that account. Simple as that. So the debit cards and the issue with that was confronted that last day or so in April. That it was a Thursday. The security department of Fidelity called me. I wasn't even out of the Fidelity parking lot yet, to say that the names were incorrect on the cards. And any person can look at the cards and look at the names and figure that names should have just been switched over to the other. It was a very simple mistake that Alec made in the paperwork, and there was no evil intent. So that stock transaction initially did go through that day or so. Check did arrive within a few days. A few days later, the debit cards arrived. The website was already up and functioning. And then when I went around the 13th to activate my mother's cards and activate everything, none of it was working. Unfortunately, during this same time, May 7th, Mother's Day, I found out that a dear person in all of our lives, 92-year-old Theoline Dixon in Texas, is doing terribly not well and was nearing the end of her time in this life, possibly. And the following Friday, which would have been roughly the 12th or the 13th, somewhere around there, is when her son Sherman told me that I need to get there as fast as possible. There is a video saved from May 16th and May 17th, the ensuing violent argument that went for over 75 minutes between all of the parties, not the Dixons, not Theoline, not Denise or Sherman, certainly not, but concerning my mom, concerning my visit time with Theoline, concerning Theoline's condition, concerning my mom's declining, and the argument and the ensuing mayhem was caused by this Fidelity account being seized or shut down or impacted. And the call involved a Mike Roche, a Russ Honor, an Amelia Sinanek, and 3 other parties. And I have that call preserved. And it's going to be part of this litigation with Fidelity. So Fidelity was given videotapes and like the one I'm making now, and was given links to the YouTube channel containing all my mother's videos, including my mother clearly not making good decisions in February of 22 with inquiring about buying a bowling alley, needing a dime from her sister Teresa from 1959, and a ridiculous claim that her sister Teresa Chirella had made concerning my management of Fidelity and some other accounts, in which during the video my mother and I laughed hysterically because it's so ridiculous. But yet, when my mother's mind comes and goes, and I have not restricted my mother having a cell phone, and my mother is on the voice recognition with Fidelity, and she has the right to call her providers. And I don't know, somehow a call got placed saying that, my mother was requesting that the accounts be shut down or frozen, and that is not the case. So there was a documented call with Fidelity on June the 25th with my mother, with the Fidelity agent. It was a three-way call because my mother, for all of June now, even by the end of May, was doing tragically worse with terrible problems with her back. There are now 2 broken bones in her back that we're dealing with that are most likely osteoporosis related and fall related to where she's living or her activities. And she's in excruciating pain. She's in terribly debilitating mental illness, and she's been in and out of the hospital for 5 different times now in June, and several trips to the emergency room. And she's living with the Catholic Sisters of Charity because my work is about to have me no longer here. And I have been to that hospital so many times and been there every possible time, including my mother's last outing was around June 10th when she managed to get out on foot on her own. I had to go track her down and bring her back and get her back. She was at her favorite store, the resale store, purchasing some items. So during this call, June 25th with Fidelity, my mother's just not there mentally. Clearly not there. And in fact, she doesn't even participate in the call. She's not even able to follow the call. She is in the call with me discussing things ranging during a 35-year period of time. A car I had in high school that I used to be a little behind on some of the payments. And in fact, I didn't even have a driver's license at the time. A sports car that was part of the 2008 financial collapse that got left at Phoenix International Airport, Sky Harbor Airport, October of 2008. Issues with her sister over a residence she no longer has from 20 years ago. Issues over my aunt's, on my dad's side's home in Orland Park that was sold in 2013 or 2014 that my mother wanted to have lived in. She's not able to understand what's going on and the importance of paying these bills and taking care of these affairs. So this is going to be the final legal warning to Fidelity to turn over the joint account, turn over the contents of the joint account, because Fidelity has had the videos since early this week, the full videos from YouTube of the conversation with Fidelity. They were recorded. And they promised that their investigators or security people, whomever, whatever they are, were going to have called me by Wednesday at noon. It's now Thursday going on 6 a.m. See, it's 5:25 a.m. local time here in Chicago, and they have not. So it's going to be the final notice to them. And then what I've been advised is going to happen is I'm going to have to litigate for the return, for the closure and the return of the contents of the joint account, which is fine. However, I've had to go for help to a former employer, fleet owner, friend in California, Paul at Smartway, just for the money to make it through to the middle of the month. I've had to spend 4 days now dealing with Robert Keller, who is irate over things not getting repaid and taken care of on monies he advanced the end of May for storage units and things on behalf of my mother. And those receipts are sitting right there. And I don't have the money to run my truck now even from July 1st to July 15th. And my mother has a very serious set of bills that are due today that have to be paid today. And on top of all this, this is now taken 3 days away from me being at the UC group where I'm supposed to have been by Wednesday morning. I was really supposed to have been there for Monday, but my mother's medical emergencies and what my mother has to go through medically had me tied up earlier this week. So here's the call. We're going to do the call, and I'm sure it's not going to go well. And they record everything on their side. So I'm going to let them know that it's being recorded on this side. I'm going to put a little bit of air conditioning on because I can already feel the heat coming to and through. And I don't like heat. I like to work in Alaska the next 3 months if I could, but it's just not been in the cards for me yet.
Thank you for calling Fidelity Investments. Many of our advisors are now offering in-person planning appointments in addition to virtual and phone appointments. To schedule a planning appointment, please stay on the line. For service transactions, we encourage you to go digital by visiting Fidelity.com or downloading the Fidelity mobile app. If you know the 5-digit extension of the individual you are trying to reach, please enter it now. Otherwise, please remain on the line.
And by the way, the call that was discussed from May the 16th with those parties turned into a physical altercation.
How can I help you today? The more you say, the better.
I need to speak to somebody about my account, please. Thank you.
Okay, question about your account. You have been verified using your phone number and your voice. For your convenience, you can get answers to many questions and accomplish most tasks by using the virtual.
It turned into a physical altercation. The law firm of William Butcher on May 19th in Homewood, Illinois.
Please remain on the line for the next available associate. One moment, please.
And this is over Theoline Dixon and what she's owed and what she should have received, and the fact that none of that could be done in a timely manner because this horse shit has been going on since May 14th or 15th, whatever the first Monday was. I'm sorry, second Monday in May. Because Sunday the 7th was Mother's Day, Sunday the 4th, so it would have been Monday the 15th. That call that was recorded was Tuesday the 16th. It would have been Thursday the 18th or the 19th that I would have been there in Homewood at Attorney Bill's office. And Bill Butcher is the attorney that prepared the documents and the Illinois Durable Power of Attorney for my mother in June of 21. And witnessed it personally at the nursing home.
Support for. I need to speak to
at California Symphony Care in Chicago was the location.
Thank you for calling Fidelity Investments. You've reached Mitchell, part of your client services team. I see you're looking to speak to someone regarding your account. May I have your first and last name?
Yeah, hey Mitchell. Your name is Mitchell, yes sir?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good morning, Mitchell. Yeah, my name is Stephen A. Summers, and I'm calling you on behalf of myself and my mother, Catherine V. O'Leary. And listen, I'm sorry that you got to be the one to get this call. I hope it's the end of your shift. I hope you had a great overnight. I hope this is not your first call of the day and you're coming in for the morning shift. But we got some bad news here, and I'm required by law to notify you because you are a representative of Fidelity Investments, and this call, I know you guys do record the calls on your side, okay? So I'm recording on this side too. There's a joint account. There's 3 accounts my mother has. My mother has an IRA, she has an individual brokerage, and there is a joint account my mother and I have together that is brokerage and precious metal. And my mother, I know it's not your department. You're not familiar with how Illinois law works and what durable power of attorney means. And what it means is that if the person becomes incompetent or incapacitated, that still continues to live on during the time they're alive. And as of right now, guardianship proceedings have started on behalf of my mother. Okay, so we've reached a terrible problem. Okay, your staff, and I don't know who, and your security department, and it's not your fault, and we don't need to go over that part. They're not even in yet. they made the decision based on a mistake they made in paperwork April 28th to begin with, to, by the second week of May, freeze my mother's accounts and my account. And they possibly did it on a call, or based on a call my mother might have had with you guys that was prompted, or in the presence of her sister Teresa Chirilla, who is nothing but a terrible influence and a monster in my mother's life and been a curse to my mother's existence for 40 years. An acute curse for 35 years. Okay. And yes, I am going to law school, and I'm looking forward to putting these skills to work, resolving this matter right now. What happened is this: those accounts being frozen has caused terrible emotional upheaval and mental pain and suffering for 9 people, including a 92-year-old woman named Theoline Dixon, her son Sherman Dixon, and his wife Denise Dixon, who notified me in May that Theoline was very much at the end of her life. Okay. My mother's care, my mother's creditors, my mother's bills. There's a gentleman named Robert Keller who's had a financial relationship with my mother and myself for over a year, with me over 3 years, and he owns a financial group. He had to begin advancing money in May to pay for my mother's storage units and different things. There's YouTube videos that have been shared with your local staff at the Orland Park office showing my mother when she got out of the nursing home in the end of January of 22, and the first day we were out together, beginning of February, and her clearly not really being in a great state of mind. And it's clearly in the videos me discussing even Fidelity and things I wanted to do for her with getting her maybe a tablet or something, and she clearly not wanting anything to do with it or understanding it, and making a claim that her sister Teresa says that I had given $42,000 to Nana Lee, that Teresa was making that claim. And I'm sure Teresa would make those kinds of claims anytime she could. But that's not the case. And the funny thing is my mother is actually laughing hysterically, and I'm laughing hysterically because of how ridiculous the statement was. At the same time, my mother's assets have been used to pay her bills, pay her living expenses, pay for things she owns, and move a business project called K-Shares forward. Okay, which was all agreed to in March of 2021, prior to her getting sick and prior to all this happening. So, with that part said, there was a call with your group, Fidelity Group, last Saturday. A wonderful gentleman took the call, was very patient. The call is recorded. It was saved on your part. You guys have a copy of it. I have a copy of it over here too. And my mother in the call, because it had to be a 3-way call, because my mother's health has failed. She can't even get out of bed right now. Not only is her mental health gone, physically, she has 2 broken bones in her back that are new breaks, probably osteoporosis related, and she's in excruciating pain. And for the last 45 days, since the middle of May, there's been 9 trips in and out of the hospital. Okay? And it's very serious. And she could pass away very shortly. Okay? And at the same time, she's not able to mentally comprehend anything most of the time right now. So during the call, the warm-up to the call, my mother's talking. Then I put the Fidelity agent on the phone. Now, whether my mother couldn't hear or whether the cell phone she has problems with, it's a flip phone, we don't know. But she did come back in the call, but she just chose not to talk in the call. She didn't talk to your staff. Either she couldn't talk or wouldn't, I don't know. And it was left that your staff were going to contact me, and you guys were going to have an investigator to go see her and make sure she's her and no one stole her and nobody is making this up. And I called the Fidelity agent early in the week, this week, Alex Garlock. I emailed him copies of the YouTube videos documenting as clear as day that my mother is not making any kind of decisions well, including my mother oscillating between a 35-year period of time, talking about houses and residences that don't exist anymore, I mean, it's clearly she's not there anymore. And your staff has had those videos. Your company's had those videos. And I was assured that your security people were going to reach out to me 2 days ago, that they were going to reach out to me. So here's how this comes down. Until the guardianship is complete, which could take 3 to 6 months, maybe, we don't know. There's nothing I can do if you're not honoring the power of attorney. There's nothing I can do about the individual account or her individual IRA. But the joint account's a different story. The joint account is exactly that. It's a joint account. It is mine and hers. And in the case of this account, the stocks that were deposited and transferred were signed over to me, which means they're mine. Okay? That I've managed on her behalf and her interest, but nonetheless, they're mine. So I'm making a demand that the contents of the joint account be immediately returned. And if you need to close the account, that's fine too. But the contents of the joint account are going to be returned. Now, here's the bad news. You're not able to do anything about it. I understand that. And I understand your security staff are going to hide from me. I understand that too. I'm sure your lawyer is going to hide even more. I'm sure they're not going to call me. And I'm going to file litigation to liquidate the joint account and to have the contents of the joint account paid back to my mother's creditors, especially Robert Keller, as soon as possible. It is Mr. Keller's decision, not my decision, to proceed in this direction because he's not waiting anymore. And at the same time, I'm not going to lose any more days at work. I'm not going to jeopardize my employment, and I'm not going to have any more stress with my employment over you guys and over her bills that need to be paid, because this should have been handled already. You know, you guys have a fiduciary responsibility at this point to contact me, contact attorney Bill Butcher, obtain your own investigator, have your own investigator come meet with her as soon as possible, and obtain what her wishes are and what her needs are. That's what you guys need to do. Now, in the meantime, if I don't hear from your staff in your security department by the end of today's June 30th, and if the account is not unfrozen by tomorrow, July 1st, then I have to proceed with litigation to close the account and to obtain the contents out of that account, because we're just not going to do this anymore. It's just not going to happen. This isn't how things are going to go. There's not a lot of money involved here. There's not a lot, but there is a pile of additional assets that need to be dealt with. And for her, and I said this in the beginning of the video, you didn't hear this part yet, but I'm going to say this second time. You know, in America today, when assets are purchased with money that people have already paid taxes on, so they've paid taxes, they've put money into Fidelity, or they've purchased assets, it's already been taxed. And I told your staff and your investment professionals, I told them in July of last year that if the markets began to go down, I would transfer her stuff into precious metal to preserve the value of it. One of her stocks alone has lost over $130 in value. The S&P Global has lost over $130 in value since last July. Disney has lost more than half in value. Okay. These are serious things. So with that said, there is not a financial product right now where big investors, small investors, medium investors, it don't matter the size of the investor, can transfer paper stock into precious metal without a tax liability. They have to sell the stock and then they have to buy the precious metal. Is that correct? That is correct, yes?
In terms of your questions and concerns, I actually don't have the authority to speak on this matter.
No, I know you don't, but I'm making, I'm sure some wizard on Wall Street, either one of Joe Biden's great human beings or somebody, is going to figure out real quick that there ought to be a product for people that have already paid taxes on an investment. They've paid taxes on the income to buy the investment. The investment begins to lose value. Okay, there should be a fund whether it's an electronic fund, whether it's a whatever, an ETF, whatever. Okay, there should be an option to convert paper stock into transferable value equivalent precious metal without a tax liability. I'm telling you, the investment provider that comes up with that one will be the next Amazon of the investment business. I'm just saying that as a side note. I know the product doesn't exist at this time, but I'm making that statement. So back to my mother's affairs. The joint account is my account at this point. My mother's on those videos that your staff have a copy of for the last 3 days. My mother's, and I have email proof that they were sent to your staff. They have a copy of the video.
Here's what I can do. Based on the conversation up to this point, allow me to reach out to that group once they are in the office, and then see what we can do to see where we are in the process of how and when we can actually respond to you. But at this point, from my scope of support, the nature of your request is just beyond that, and there isn't anything that I could do at this moment to impact the situation other than reach out and see where our team is with this situation. From the basis of you indicating that you want to move forward with some type of legal litigation.
No, I just want the assets back. I want the assets back because listen. I've had to spend 3, 4, 5 days now losing $400 a day in income. Someone's going to pay me back that $2,000 I lost this week. Okay? Someone's going to pay me for all of the misery I've had to go through with creditors and with people. And, I was calling people till 10 o'clock last night, trying to get her more time on this, trying to get her more time on that. My place of business has required me to watch some training videos that I haven't gotten done for them yet. The sun is already coming up. It's going on 5:44 a.m. here right now because this horse shit's been going 45 days. I haven't been able to spend any time for the entire month of June with the Dixon family and Theoline Dixon. Okay? This is.
Here's what I'm gonna have to do. Mr. Summers. Here's what I'm gonna have to do. Allow me to reach out to that group so you can express those concerns to them because there isn't anything.
I got a better idea. Play them the call. Or have them call me. Because listen to me what I'm telling you. And I can say it in Spanish and I can say it in French and I'm learning Portuguese too. So you tell me if I'm not speaking the right language. I'll work with you. I'm not making another call. I am not making another call. Okay? I'm not making... I'm done making calls. I'm done making calls.
Allow me to... Okay. Mr. Summers, allow me to take it from here. And I will... As soon as they're open, I'll